And what I'm going to do is, since I'm going to be the one doing most talking, I'm going to spotlight my video, so you don't have to look at the recording of a little picture of me. All right, well, welcome everybody. Today I want to talk a bit about disappointment, overcoming disappointment. Some basics of it. We're going to talk about a little bit of practical ways it works. We're going to talk a bit about some spiritual implications as well. And in my experience in working with clients, the inability to deal with disappointment is probably the biggest shipwrecker of people's lives. Okay, the inability to handle disappointment, right? So Jim Rohn says you need to discipline your disappointment. Okay. And one of the things that is, one of the problems with network marketing is you have the ability to get into business with a very low initial investment and very low commitment. And most of the times when people go into business, they have to have the personal discipline and wherewithal to have amassed a chunk of money before they do it. Does that make sense? And that takes a certain level of personal development before they even start the business, right? So a lot of times people doing network marketing, they get in, they're like, oh, this is crazy, and there's all sorts of stuff, and I don't like it. And it's like, yeah, welcome to business in general, right? You think it's unique to network marketing, but it's not. Business like happens. Does that make sense? So one thing you'll notice is, as you do business in general, and definitely network marketing, is you kind of pick the company to have problems with. Does that make sense? Right? And if you don't know how to discipline disappointment, you'll get shipwrecked before you ever get to any level of success. Okay. So here's a basic description of what disappointment is and what happens, right? I'm going to say it this way. Unresolved disappointment occupies a place in your heart that faith is supposed to occupy. I'll say that again. Unresolved disappointment occupies a place in your heart that faith is supposed to occupy. What do we mean by that? Like, my granddaughter is she's born September 1st. She's still very young. She's not walking yet. When she does start walking, I promise you one thing you do is you put those little plastic things into the outlets. Does that make sense? Why? So people don't stick stuff in the outlets they're not supposed to be stuck in. My son once literally took a pair of tweezers and stuck it into the outlet because he wanted to know what was going to happen, right? It's like, oh my God. That's a little crazy, right? But what in life you need faith to move forward. What does faith mean? Faith means we move forward with a keen expectation of something good coming down the road, right? And if you've had significant disappointment in your life, it's hard to move forward because the disappointment's like sticking right there. Is that everyone follow me so far, right? So, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat in case people have questions as we do this, right? So what most people's response to disappointment, trauma, tragedy, whatever you want to call it, seems logical, but it is fundamentally the wrong approach. And what do I mean? Most people, when they experience disappointment, trauma, anything else like that, they go, why did that happen? I need to know why. What does Jim Rohn say? Jim Rohn says, don't sign up for that class. Don't sign up for that class. Well, why not sign up for that class? Here's why. You're asking why because you don't want something like this to happen again. And you're thinking that if you figure out why it happened and what maybe you did wrong or didn't do, that you can then keep yourself safe in the future. Also, you think that if you knew why, it would give you a certain level of understanding and that new level of understanding would give you some peace, and that peace would heal your disappointment and you can move forward. Everyone follow me? Sounds like a great idea, but it is fundamentally the wrong approach. Here's why. Number one, when you ask why, your brain is going to give you an answer because you're asking a question. But it is an open-ended question. And your brain is not going to filter out all the answers dependent on whether they're helpful or accurate. Okay, what's going to happen? Your brain is going to bury you in BS. Right? Here's one of the issues, okay? This doesn't impact lazy, dumb people. And that may seem harsh, but here's the deal. You're lazy and dumb, something happens, you're like, why'd that happen? You're like, I have no idea. And you go on about your life. Anybody have some like friends who aren't super bright, but they seem to like breeze through things and they're kind of happy? And all your super smart friends are like on medication, right? anyone have that experience, right? Why? Oh, you're disciplined and you're super smart. So you're going to be like, why? You're like, why? And you ask that stupid question 500,000 times. And in doing so, you will fundamentally rewire your brain for depression and anxiety. Why? Because you're training your brain to look for your shortcomings, the mistakes, what's not perfect, what could happen, right? And you filter out all the potential good options, how well you're doing, how good business actually is. Does that make sense? It's a major problem, right? So the first thing you need to do regarding disappointment is to kill the why, like kill it, like dead, like zero tolerance policy to an extreme, right? Here's the level I mean, okay? Every single one of you has a very strict rule in your household. No one in your household has ever discussed this rule, but 100%, even the teenagers, 100% of the people in your household are totally on board with this rule, and no one is willing to break this rule. You're like, really? Oh yeah. The rule is no live rattlesnakes are allowed to be wandering around the house. Everyone in agreement? Zero tolerance policies. That makes sense? No questions asked, not discussing it, not playing around. Does that make sense? Ever, right? You need to treat this, but why? Why'd they do that to me? Why didn't they sign up? Like, here's an example. One of the benefits I have in doing network marketing for a long time is I know certain things happen that are super weird, but it's normal. If you're new to network marketing, you may not have this experience. For example, I meet someone, they're super competent, right? They're fired up. They've had experience in network marketing before. They're telling me all the amazing things they're going to do. And they're like, here's my credit card. I want to do the $1,000 thing. You're like, awesome, right? And upon signing up for the $1,000 kit, they immediately join the witness protection program. Now, as a novice, you're going to go, why? But why? But why? In my wisdom gained from doing things wrong for a very long time, I go, who cares? I have no idea. Who cares? It happens. It's weird, right? Move forward. Is this making sense? Right? I want to explore a bit on a spiritual level as well, okay? One thing to understand is that when you ask why, okay, hidden in the why is always an accusation. What do I mean? Your significant other does something and you go, why? Why would you do that? I'm secretly accusing them. Does that make sense? I'm like, do you not care? Are you dumb? Are you trying to hurt me? Like I fulfilled my end. You don't seem to have fulfilled your end. Does that make sense? So understand this on a spiritual perspective. And forgive me if it makes anyone uncomfortable. I just have to be authentic from where I'm coming from. And this is going to be super important if you understand it, right? From a spiritual perspective, often what happens is people experience trauma or disappointment not only they go, why, but they kind of go, why? They're like, I don't know, God. Like, I'm pretty sure I was following my end and you look like you're dropping the ball. Do you not care? Do you trying to punish? Does that make sense? It's like if you could tell me why, that'll be really helpful, right? From a spiritual perspective, understand this. There's a scripture in the New Testament that says, the peace of God passes understanding, right? What does it mean? So we experience this certain level of massive disappointment, pain, and trauma, and we're like, oh, I need some peace. And God says, look, I have this peace to help you. You're like, that will be wonderful. And God's like, but it's not connected to understanding why this happened this way. And we're like, I don't know. I think I would really prefer the peace connected to understanding. In fact, if I'm being honest, I kind of demand it. Does that make sense? And we're like, and pretty soon there's fundamental disconnection from any faith or connection to the divine. You follow me so far? But I will tell you, the correct approach is, number one, don't ask why. Number two, ask a different question. What is the question? The question goes like this: what's the hidden gift in what's going on? Interesting. How can I take what happened and use it as the foundation to something beautiful? How can I allow what happened or what I did or didn't do to make me better and stronger than I was? Right. And some people might say, well, you don't understand what happened to me. There's no gift in it. Yeah, it's like, unless you can answer that question, you will always be a victim to what happened to you. Right. If you want a really excellent example of this, go on Netflix, search I'm Not Your Guru. It is a documentary about Tony Robbins and one of his 3-day empowerment weekends, right? And in it, he's dealing with this question, right? And this woman stands up, a young woman. She looks a little tired. She goes, I'm from Brazil. I had to sell all my furniture to get here. You see, my whole family thinks I have my act together and they rely on me, but I'm actually fundamentally broken. She says, you see, I grew up in a church which practiced ritualistic sexual abuse from a very young age, and it fundamentally broke me. And he looks at her and he goes, so what's the gift in what happened to you? Well, the gift in that, right? So next scene is the next day. She stands up again. She looks fundamentally different. Fundamentally different. Does that make sense? She stands up. She goes, I decided what the gift was. She goes, I'm going to overcome what happened to me, and I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to take what I learned, and I'm going to help thousands of women radically change their lives. Oh, there you go. Does that make sense? I will share something to you recently that actually applies to all of us. Okay. One thing you find in network marketing is the players on the team can change. Some things that you had relied on become different. Does that make sense? Right. One thing, for example, I don't know if you noticed that James Leonard, who is a very prominent person in our team and in our group, is absent. Does that make sense? And in a slightly significant way. Does that make sense? Now, when I started Vidify, James was one of the real selling points to me to doing Vidify. I'm like, I've got this amazing upline. He's awesome and super competent. Anyone follow me? It's like, this is great, right? But here he is gone. Does that make sense? So the other day I asked myself, for my own business, what is the hidden gift that this has happened? You follow me? What's the hidden gift. And I thought about it for a bit. And I'm like, if I look at how I've showed up in Vita Phi when James was really, really present, I allowed myself to be actually quite lazy, right? I'm like, oh, James will do it. We'll let him do that. We'll let him do the training. We'll let him figure. Does that make sense? Right? And the problem with that is that I have very high goals on what I'm going to do with Vita Phi, like really next level goals. And if I looked at it honestly, I go, I don't think that I would have stopped being lazy and stepped into the leadership role I need to step into that would be what I needed to actually build the business I need to build. You follow me so far? It's disappointment. Does that make sense? Right? In many ways, right? But I see the gift in it. Is it comfortable? No. Is it gonna stretch me? But it's a good thing. Does that make sense? So here's one of the good news about trauma and disappointment and pain. If you heal from it properly, especially if you go, okay, God, I don't need to understand why. I'm going to let go of that, but I've got to have peace to heal my broken heart so I can move forward, right? And if you work out that process on your own, okay, and you arrive to a place where you have peace, but no understanding, what do I mean by that? Oh, this horrible thing happened to you, Steve. Why? You're like, I don't know, but my heart's good. You see, my heart's good. If you do that properly, what you'll find is your area of great disappointment can then become your area of great triumph. You follow me? But you have to heal the disappointment properly. Okay. So if we go back over this again, number one, you can't ask why. I mean, you can if you want to, but I'm telling you, it will shipwreck your whole life. You talk to anyone dealing with significant depression and or anxiety, and I promise you, this is exactly how their brain got rewired for depression and anxiety. Promise you. I do this as a living, hundreds of hours with people. It comes back to this. How are they evaluating life? What questions are they asking? What are they looking for? What are they documenting? Does that make sense? It's like, you got to change this fundamentally. So you got to kill the why. You got to ask different questions. What's the gift in it? How can I make it better? How can it make me better and stronger? You can also get very good at not just asking, but documenting pen and paper. What's going on good in my business? What have I done well? Does that make sense? Right? To document that. And one of the reasons you write it down pen and paper is when you write it down, there's something in your brain called a mirror neuron. Okay. And a mirror neuron, when you write something down, your brain thinks you did it again. Right? So it's like you get double credit. Does that make sense? So it speeds up the rewiring of getting your brain very good at focusing on the good in life. Okay. Many of you have made the mistake of going, I will be happy once I accomplish XYZ. Yeah, that's a trap. If you want to accomplish significant things in your life, one of the most important things to do is to become happy. Because a happy brain, any job you assign to it, sales, marketing, who cares? It will do it about 25, 30% better. And this is, I'm talking about hardcore university level research backing it up, right? Oh, when I hit diamond, then I'll be happy. Yeah, you're probably not going to hit it. Or when you do hit it, you're not going to be happy, right? And that'd be sad, wouldn't it? So it's like document the good in your life. Okay. So any questions on this disappointment thing? I'm going to unmute everyone here if I can mute all. And then, oops, see if I can allow participants to, okay. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to comment or pose a question. Questions? Questions? Going once, going twice. Sharon, you have a question, but you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, now I'm unmuted. I couldn't before, so I was.
Go ahead.
So it's only a matter of changing the question, you say, right?
That is one part of it. Yeah,
okay.
One part of it.
Is there another part of it?
That's the place you want to start. How about that?
Okay, this is the starting place. Change the question, change the way you look. Like
Correct.
you can look to the problem. It is like the same as zooming out. If you're in the problem,
I wouldn't say the same as, let me ask you this. Are there any sports you like to do or watch, Sharon?
Yeah, I used to dance a lot.
Dancing? What else? Have you ever gone skiing? No. Here's, I want to give you an example, okay? Like, do people around you watch soccer? What do they do?
My husband likes the Formula One.
Formula One. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Let's talk about driving a car. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tony Robbins once said, he goes, I wanted to learn how to drive race cars. So I went to this course and this organization that would teach you how to drive race cars. So you sit in the car with an instructor sitting next to you. And the car is set up so it will very easily skid, right? So you get used to how do you handle car when it's sliding all over the pavement. Does that make sense? He goes, I found myself in the car sliding sideways towards the guardrail, right? Oh crap, we're gonna hit the guardrail, right? Well, the instructor's in the car. He doesn't want to hit the guardrail either, right?
Yeah.
The instructor reaches over, and what did the instructor grab?
The steering wheel?
Nope.
The brake?
Nope. He grabbed his helmet and yanked his head, so he was staring at where he wanted to go, not where he didn't want to go. He goes, as soon as I looked to where I wanted to go, I automatically steered myself out.
Yeah.
Man, how come my business isn't growing the way I want? Like, whoa. Like, that's a useless question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you're looking the way you don't want to go. How can
I make building my business fun? How can I allow it to be easy? How can I allow my areas of frustration in my business to become my areas of strength? Or even better, if you have a vision is putting yourself in the future, seeing it already accomplished. And in that way, the question is a little different. And the question is, how come it was so easy to create this? Right? So that's like, you want to get very, very good at this. Like, where am I pointing my brain? Does that make sense? Like, I'll give you an example here. In America, a lot of people have guns. Does that make sense? People in other countries freak out. They don't understand it, right? But, you know, like, for example, when I lived in South Carolina, I had a license to carry a gun with me concealed anytime, anywhere. This is a foreign concept to some people, but that's our culture. Does that make sense? So there is in terms of gun safety, there's one rule that you don't ever break regarding gun safety. Okay, it's this. It's like, you don't point the gun at anything you don't actually want to shoot ever, even as a joke. You're always aware 100% of the time, even if you think the gun's loaded, you would never point it at something you didn't want. Like, I would never go, oh, Sharon, the gun's unloaded, but I'm just playing around. It's like, no, zero, no. You're not allowed to do that ever, 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 ever. Does that make sense? The questions you ask yourself are what direction you're pointing your brain. You gotta be vigilant about it. Does that make sense? And it's a new habit. It'll take a while, but you're like, not going there. Does that make sense?
And sorry, is that every time you notice, because every time you know, like, okay, my brain is pointing now a different way, you just point it, and then that's the process you, or
it'll take a long time. You have to do it a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Here's one thing you want to do is don't beat yourself up every time you get off track.
Yeah. Just notice.
I can't believe I asked the wrong question, because no, it's okay. You're not supposed to do it 100% of the time. That'd be weird. Just fix it. Put it in the right. You're okay. I caught it. Cool. Good job. Boom. Refocus.
Yeah. That makes sense. I know the challenge is it, but that makes sense.
People go, why is no one in my business doing anything? It's like, why would you want to know that? How can I most easily and effectively motivate the people in my team who want to do something and help them? Ooh, that's a good question. How can I figure out in my team who wants to do something and who actually doesn't want to do something? And how can I most effectively point my resources in the right direction? That's a great question.
Yeah.
Right. You know, the most confusing thing
take the power
have,
back to yourself instead
right,
of leave the power to other people.
Right. The most confusing thing people ask, they're like, well, why don't people do anything? It's like, okay, here's a secret. Often people don't make sense. Do you know this? People don't make sense a lot of time. It's just the way it is. That makes sense? You can't figure it out. There you go. Move on.
I I don't know this sentence in this context. It really English is not my first language, yeah. So I'm trying to process that people don't make sense.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
The Netherlands. Oh,
awesome. We have lots of wonderful people from the Netherlands in Vidify.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I would say, do you speak German?
No, Dutch.
Verrückt is the German word. I don't know if there's something similar in Dutch. Verrückt, it just means a little crazy, like, you know.
Yeah, verrückt. Yeah.
Verrückt, yeah. So it's like, the weird thing about the world is most of the time, most of the people are wrong.
Okay.
If everyone could and did do network marketing effectively, there would be no opportunity or money in it.
Huh. I want to write that down. Can you repeat that?
If everyone could and did network marketing effectively, then there would be no money or opportunity in it. Things pay well if most people aren't willing and or able to do it.
Are you also recording it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to get the record that I can?
Yeah. Ryan will post it in the group.
Okay, great. Then I can pay more attention to you.
Oh, this is hard. Wonderful. There's money to be made. Oh, when people say, oh, anyone could do network marketing, I'm like, anyone could, but you have to be honest, most people won't, and that's okay. Then there's opportunity. You see? Cool. It's hard. Excellent. You don't get paid to do something that's super easy that any idiot could do. Okay. There's like, oh, you want to make a lot of money? Awesome. Well, you probably have to do something that most people aren't willing and or able to do. Most people aren't willing and or able to be a leader and to overcome disappointment. You want to get the skill set of overcoming disappointment? Excellent. There's some money to be made. Man, I remember years ago, I was in this network marketing company, and I'm not a big person on detail, all right? I kind of, anyone who knows me, I'm like, don't ask me the compensation plan questions. I'm like, I don't know, it's like, whatever. I'm very vague with it, right? But I had a bunch of Taiwanese women in my business. And oh my God, did they bust me on all the smallest details about the compensation plan and where's my money and where's my phone. It drove me crazy. And I had to keep repeating to myself, okay, I get paid to solve problems. The bigger problems I have, an upgrade is coming to me. Does that make sense? I get promotions through handling higher level problems. So it's a good thing. Does that make these women drive me crazy? No, it's good. I'm upgrading. Does that make sense? Oh, Steve, this thing happened in my organization. Excellent. So you're getting better solving problems, then that's worth some money there. If you're like, I don't want to handle it. Okay, well, you understand, oh, I want to make $10,000 a month in my network marketing organization. Great. Bad news, you're going to have to become worth $10,000 a month. Good news is you can. Bad news is you're not yet. But you can change that, right? No one can rob you of that, you know. So any other questions from anybody? Going once, going twice. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do this for you guys. I'll share the link with Ryan. I'll have him if I have, well, I won't have access to the link, but he'll post it and you can rewatch it as well. So anyways, who wants to, here's what I'd like to do. We've talked today about overcoming disappointment. Who wants to speak back to me the simple steps of exactly how to do this? What's the deal with disappointment? How do you overcome it? Who's been listening? Sharon, go for it. You got to unmute yourself. You can do it.
Yeah, now I can unmute myself. The moment I feel disappointed, I'm not gonna dwell in the why, why that, why do I, have I did something wrong? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with the situation? What's wrong with God? Why is God putting this on me? Instead of that, I take on my best energy and focus on the picture I want to see.
Perfect.
And I ask questions how to get there.
Perfect. And here's a subtle, I'll tell you a subtle important thing. When I say, how come it was so easy to get there? That the easy part is important. And the reason that's important is there are, the way to put it is there's more than one way to add up to 10. There's many different ways to build a large network marketing organization. You could do it in an incredibly difficult way, which wears you out and makes you hate your business. Or you could do it a slightly different way that's enjoyable. So make sure you tell your brain to look for the best way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the easy, so the
How can it
most
be
fun
easy?
way.
Is there an easier way to do this? Is there an easier way that's easier and more fun to do this? Your brain's like, oh, we will find one for you. We'll get back to you. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Because the way I was doing was not super fun. Go find an easy way and bring that back to me. Right. So that's important, but excellent job. Anyone else
Thank you for
want
today.
to add anything to that? So going once, going twice. Beautiful. Excellent. Well, next week we will talk about structural tension and the creative process. And I will share with you some insights from a guy who gets paid $50,000 a day to shift multi-billion-dollar organizations from being toxic and going down the tubes to being very successful. And as a network marketer, it's one of the biggest skills you need. I will. Here's an interesting thing. My daughter's in-laws, especially her mother-in-law, is one of the best network marketing leaders I've ever met. She's a phenomenal leader, incredible. Makes $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month, right? And I talked to her once because the company they're with is doing great. It's not a product or approach I'm interested in, but I have deep respect for him. Does that make sense? And I asked her, I go, have you ever heard of this guy named Robert Fritz? His understanding of structural tension and the creative process is amazing. She goes, oh yeah, I know that guy. Our CEO hired him as a consultant, and he trains us on how to create structural tension and how to create things. So what I'm going to share with you next week is like, it's the real deal on how to, you're going to have concept of how to get people to do something, right, in your organization, in an all volunteer army, okay, which is, it's uniquely challenging to do. Anyways, anything else? Going once. I don't think I have the ability to end it. I think Ryan will have to do that. But I will stop the recording